The Go Downs is back with more free agency signing grades. This is our third video full of these grades, more to come. We also have to grade all the trades that went down, but it seems like they're still coming in. Very recent one with the Eagles and Texans. Things getting crazy. A lot of high grades in this video. Excited about that. Let's jump into it. Let's start with a couple Giant signings. Jevon, Holland, one of the top free agents, the top safety free agent. It didn't feel like the Giants were in on him that much. Felt like there was other teams in there, and he goes for $15.1 million per year. I was surprised that no other team beat that. Maybe they did, and he just liked that situation. Yeah, I heard the Commanders, a rival, were in on him. So very interesting. So I think this is really solid for the Giants. It's almost pushing A+. For me to get A+, I have to be like, wow, like DJ Reed to the Lions. I was very shocked and impressed by that, and Chris Godwin only going for $22 million. So it wasn't quite there, but pretty close. I do love the fit with Tyler Nubin. They're going to play a lot of split safety looks, but Holland is also good playing in the back end, free safety, but also in the box blitzing. So while he's doing that, Nubin can kind of play in the back end and play free safety as well. So I do love the pairing there. They just both have to stay healthy. That is the only question, but this is really solid for the Giants here, adding one of the top free agents, and they didn't overpay for him either, so fantastic job. Not as big of one here, but I like this. Chauncey Golston from the Cowboys to the Giants. The Cowboys' former pass rusher, very young, kind of broke out a little bit last year while being a rotation piece. This is perfect for the Giants because obviously Brian Burns is a starter, and obviously they want Kayvon Thibodeau to work out, but having another guy that can really fill in, rotate in, I think he's ended up being better than Azeez Ojulari, which might be bold right now, but he still has upside, showed some promise last year, and only $6.5 million per year. Of course, going into free agency, this was kind of one of my sneaky sleeper guys that should be cheap. So, of course, he should be cheap, but looking at what these pass rushers are getting, like guys that really aren't that much better. Like, how much better is Chase Young, who we'll talk about in this video? He's supposed to be a lot better. How much better is Odangbo? They're better, but $10 million plus more per year better? I don't know. I think this is a pretty good deal. I like that they got him 3 years, so because he's kind of upside, develop him a little bit more type of guy. So I think it's a really good situation there. So I like what the Giants did recently with Holland, which is a bigger one, but Holland and Golston here. They did add a Debo. We graded that in the first video. So the Giants are getting better. They missed on some offensive linemen, and they still have a question at quarterback, which is tough because I really think Ward's going one, and I think the Browns are going to take Sanders too. So tough decision for the Giants coming. Another safety off the board. The Jets add Cisco. Heard they were in on Jevon Holland as well. 1 year deals I typically don't go crazy about. It's hard to grade the 1 year deals super high because free agency is all about the multi-year deals, getting guys that can help you right now and the future. So it's hard to grade the 1 year deals high, but I do like this one a lot. I wish they gave him a 2 year deal. I like the fit in Aaron Glenn's defense. Remember Kirby Joseph in the back end, that free safety position for Aaron Glenn. Just what is he? He's purely a playmaker. He gets his hands on the ball, very rangy. He doesn't have a lot of strengths outside of that. Not that he's bad outside of that. But Cisco is kind of in the same boat. Big time athlete, rangy playmaker, gets his hands on the ball. That's exactly what this Jets team needed with this. It's probably going to be a heavy man coverage defense. So I do love the fit. I could see him having a big year, a lot of interceptions. But then the issue is they got to turn around and give him a big contract then if they want him or they lose him. So that's kind of the flaw of the 1 year deal. But $10 million is a good price. Look at what the other safeties are getting, $15 million plus. I know those other safeties are a little bit better than Cisco, but I like the fit. I like the price. Wish it was 2 year deal, but I like it overall, so I give it an A- for the New York Jets. Chase Young back to the Saints, a surprising 3 year, $51 million. That's $17 million per year for a pass rusher that has been struggling. I just don't know where you get that number from. I've actually bumped up this grade from where I started. I actually started at a D+, but man, well, first off, the negatives. I don't know where they come up with that price. Hasn't been good, been underwhelming, lacking effort at times, doesn't really finish plays too well. It just felt like a guy that, who were they bidding against to get $17 million a year? Just felt like a guy that was going to get a 1 or 2 year deal for, I don't know, 12, 13 million a year. So don't know where they got that. I don't love it. It was originally going to be a bad grade because of that. But Man, Chase Young's supposed to be elite. He's supposed to be so good. And you have to think he still has that inside him a little bit. And the Saints got to believe that. And they did overpay, but you still think he has some potential. You know, it's good that he's sticking around at the same place. They bring in Brandon Staley as defensive coordinator. And his scheme's going to be a little bit different, not only to what the Saints have been running, but every scheme that Chase Young has been in. So maybe that's all he needs. Maybe that's all he needs there. So I think that's actually a sneaky scheme fit there. So maybe he gets his career going right here. We know the talent is deep inside there somewhere. So I bumped it up a little bit, but this is wasn't necessary to give this big of a contract, and especially a 3 year, $17 million per year. So, but I ended up bumping it up. Maybe there's some upside in there. Give it a C-. Broncos signed Dre Greenlaw, 3 year, $35 million. So it seems like everybody I see talking loves what the Broncos have done. We graded Hufanga in the last video. I seem to be by myself on that. I'm a little scared what the Broncos have done here. The positive is there's some good free agents that I have linked to them, predicted to them, that are still left, so I think they can do some damage. Technically, they get better with Hufanga and Greenlaw. If these guys are on the field, they are good football players, we think. If they're still the same after the injury, that's the big question too. And then the Broncos upgrade where they needed upgrades, linebacker, safety. So that is the big thing there. But man, there's a lot of risk for a lot of money. Dre Greenlaw was injured in not this last Super Bowl, the Super Bowl before. He sat out most of the year for the 49ers and then finally came back, and he was not the same player. He was not the same player, but maybe he came back too soon. Broncos, crossing your fingers that he just came back too soon. And I think for the 49ers to let him go for this, I think kind of says that. They got a good look at him, and they're like, this guy can't go. He can't do it. So, and then Hufanga played 7 games last year, 10 games the year before. I mean, he's all pro if he's still the same and on the field. So there's a lot of risk. If both these guys stay healthy all year, it's probably great. But if they miss any games, it's a $15 million for Hufanga, $11.6 million per year for Greenlaw. And it's like these guys are both hurt. Or, to me, Hufanga is going to be good if he's on the field. I'll say that. There's a chance maybe he's not the same, but I'm gonna be optimistic. Greenlaw, I really don't know. He came back last year. He's not the same player, but maybe he was too early. So I actually think this is major risk. It's like Broncos got better until, because these are major durability concern guys. So that's my issue. If they got bargain deals, then it would be a different story. $11.6 million is a lot for a linebacker. I know the top tier linebackers are getting paid a lot more, and then $15 million is a lot for a safety. So, boom or bust signings for the Broncos. A ton of risk. I haven't been overly thrilled with what they've done so far. Former Bronco Javonte Williams going to the Dallas Cowboys, 1 year, $3 million. Yeah, I don't like to go too crazy with the 1 year deals, but I love this. I've always been maybe too high on Javonte Williams, and he's been underwhelming. So maybe he continues to be that. But, man, watching the Broncos over the years, you see Javonte Williams, he almost goes beast mode at times, or he's doing a good job catching the ball out of the backfield, and then they take him out of the game for fourth-string running back, third-string running back, whatever it is. I just did not love what they were doing with them. So I think right now it feels like he'll be the lead guy for the Cowboys. I think he could do some damage with that team. And a 1 year, only $3 million deal, I think that is pretty damn solid. So I actually like this one. I like the fit. I think he'll go off with the Cowboys if he's the guy. So I like it. What the Cowboys have done in general, I don't know if we could say we like it, because they cleared a lot of money this year by restructuring. And when you do that, you're taking the restructured money and you're piling it on top of future years. So you're helping yourself now by clearing space. You're hurting yourself in the future. So you clear space, all that space now, to spend money to do something. Otherwise, you wouldn't hurt your future, where Micah Parsons' extension is going to be future money they have to use. So for them to clear money now and not really be using it, it is head scratching. So in general, what the Cowboys have done, I don't know, but I like this one right here. Najee Harris to the Chargers, another one that we predicted accurately. 1 year, $9.5 million. Another 1 year deal that I just love. I love Najee Harris. I like him in general. People are underrating him. I don't really get the knock. Consistently a 1,000-yard receiver. He is physical. He's tough. I feel like he's getting better catching the football out of the backfield. Just feels like a really good fit for that system, that scheme. Greg Roman, Harbaugh. It just feels. And they're not locked in long term, so they can draft the running back to pair with him. I love this. I think he's going to have his best year yet this year with the Chargers. I think his best football is ahead of him. When I was predicting free agents, I had some Chargers fans saying Chargers have all this cap space and the only top free agent you have them getting is Najee Harris. Yep, that's what we had. That's what happened. It's not always about how much cap space you have. So I think we nailed that one. I think there's still some guys out there they could add for sure. But this is the guy I kind of had them targeting. I love the fit. I give him an A. It's a good one for the Dolphins here. James Daniels, the guard from the Steelers, going to Miami, 3-year, $24 million. Yes, he's coming off an injury. He's a solid guard for $8 million a year. The Dolphins badly need not only a guard, but a guard upgrade. I think they upgrade here. They get a solid one. Is he the best in the world? No, he's coming off an injury. That's tough, but he's solid. Look at the other guards. Is he that much? How far below is he compared to the guys that are getting 17, 19 million? Not that fun. Those guys have upside. Daniels does not, but I think this is a really solid deal for the Miami Dolphins. If I was a little more comfortable post injury, then it'd probably be an A+, but this is what the Dolphins needed. They couldn't really afford to spend crazy at the guard position, but they needed an upgrade and they got it for a good deal. So I love this for Miami. We have tons of Viking signings to go over. Byron Murphy gets a whopping $66 million, $22 million per year. So definitely more than expected for Byron Murphy. If this one happened first, like the first corner signing at $22 million per year, well, it wouldn't have been. We're going to get into that. Then this would be a much lower grade. But it started with Carlton Davis, who does have the durability concerns, not as versatile as Murphy, gets $20 million a year. So that kind of set the table for these other guys. It bumped up the Murphy deal, the Charvarius Ward deal. So you kind of give these teams that get these later signings at this price, a little bit of leeway here. But and it seems like the market, it almost seems like these defensive backs that are super versatile, they could play outside corner and slot, or they could play safety in the slot. It seems like their value is skyrocketing right now. It's kind of seemed like that over the last 2 years. So Murphy is one of those guys. It is a bit pricier than I thought. I did find it interesting that Spot Rack had him valued at $22 million. I thought that was high, but they were right there. So a little high, but again, this is where the market is going. The Vikings needed him back. I mean, their corner group would have been a disaster if they didn't get him back, and they're a little limited on draft picks. So Vikings getting him back is pretty big. It helps their defense, but was a little pricey maybe. So we'll give it a B- here for Minnesota. Vikings also signed Jonathan Allen. They actually also are planning to sign Javon Hargrave. No numbers on that yet, so he's not in this video, but they loaded up that interior defensive line. Jonathan Allen, 3 years, $60 million. That's $20 million per year. It's an interesting one to grade for me because part of me is like, he's 30. I mean, not that he's really declining. He's still great when he's on the field. He is coming off an injury. He's not really a durability issue guy, though, but he's coming off an injury. So that kind of, and he got $20 million a year. Commanders just cut him, so that kind of made me want to grade it a little lower, but at the same time, you get a big-time defensive tackle, $20 million a year, defensive tackle market skyrocketing. This actually puts him at the 16th for now, give or take, 16th highest paid defensive tackle, so you would expect Jonathan Allen to be way more valuable than that. And the Vikings have kind of been missing this style defensive tackle, one to get after the quarterback. So the more I'm talking about, maybe the more B+ is more fitting. But yeah, the only thing coming off an injury, 30 years old, not that, is he declining though? That's kind of a question. It doesn't really feel like it. So this is I think at worst a B. The more I'm talking, maybe I should have gave it a B+. But yeah, 3 year, $20 million per year. It's a little pricey. Vikings spend some money, but I do like that because it felt like the free, not the scheduled free agents. The scheduled free agents were known as, not all of them, but a weaker class. The cut free agents were known as kind of loaded, and the Vikings dip in there and get Allen and expected Hargrave. So I like what they've done there with the stronger part of that group. So Minnesota, you look at that defensive line. If they get Hargrave, you got Allen, Hargrave, and Harrison Phillips in the interior. Gernard Van Ginkel on the outside. You also Jalen Redmond played great for them in the interior. Dallas Turner off the edge. That is one of the better, and it was already good as it was, so there's really no concern. Will it be good? So there's really none of that. So that is actually one of the better defensive lines in football right now. Vikings also added the top guard going into day one of free agency, Will Fries, who we predicted to go to Minnesota. This is a big get for them. 5-year, $88 million. They're spending a lot of money. I love that they locked him in for 5 years. That's a little unusual, but a young upside guard, very young still. Best footballs ahead of them, and the Vikings have badly been searching for guards. So if you find one, you lock him up. This one actually becomes very interesting at that $17.6 million per year range, because weeks ago, before free agency, I'm like, what are these guards? What should these guards get? The guards in general, anywhere between 14 to 16 million, maybe a little bit over 16 million. This is not counting Trey Smith. And then we had Fries at the top of that. But then the Bears go ahead and trade for Jonah Jackson, and they're paying the full $17.5 million range. They trade a pick for him and pay that. So what was everyone saying? Everyone's saying, well, the Bears see how the guard market's going to be. All these guards are going to get paid a ton. So the Bears went and got a fit for Ben Johnson. They trade for him, and they still pay that $17.5 million. And they were kind of right? Aaron Banks goes for $19 million, and then Will Fries goes for $17.6, so just over that. But I do think that's a great price range for the Vikings to actually be under Aaron Banks and to be right there, because this was the top guard and free agent with a lot of upside here. So I thought that number actually made a lot of sense, and I think there was some strategy around that from Will Fries and I thought he could have got more given what Banks got. So I like this for the Vikings. They badly needed a right guard. They get it here with Will Fries, who was my top guard going into free agency, not counting Trey Smith, who was franchise tagged. And Daniel Jones going to the Colts, 1 year, $14 million. It is max value of 17.7, I believe. And he might hit that, because I do think he will start over Anthony Richardson. Maybe he doesn't, but I think so. I think people were kind of sleeping on Daniel Jones. I know he struggled with the Giants. Everybody was struggling with the Giants. I think it's a really good fit, a really good system in Shane Steichen's offense. Daniel Jones could use his legs still, but he's going to look to throw first, which is great. And he has weapons. I mean, Pittman, Downs, Pierce, the Colts have weapons. The offense line, they did lose Fries and Kelly, but they're typically good at developing, coaching offensive linemen. They have Jonathan Taylor, still going to be a run-first offense, and they added talent on defense. So I think the Colts could be sneaky. I like this one. I actually had Jones rated as a top 3 quarterback. Darnold at 1, but I was almost debating with myself, Rodgers and Daniel Jones, because one has some upside. Rodgers, a 1 year deal, you could say Rodgers a little bit better, but I actually like Jones better than, and he has a shot to be stinky still, I suppose, like he was in the Giants, but I think he's a good fit. I think he's going to outperform Anthony Richardson. The Colts could be very sneaky with what they've added, especially on defense and with the weapons that Jones actually has in Indy. So I actually kind of like this one. For the Colts. I think the Colts have done a good job, which is pretty rare in free agency. They spent some money, but Daniel Jones, Cam Bynum, Charvarius Ward, they've gotten better, and I don't think they've overpaid. I mean, $20 million for a corner, and we had they're all in different videos. Ward was the second video, so the last one. Bynum was in the first one. We graded those pretty well. But $20 million for a corner is a lot, but I can't really sit here and say, look at Carlton Davis got $20 million. Murphy ended up getting 22. Can't sit here and say they overpaid at all. So I think the Colts have been one of the more impressive teams so far in free agency. So this is my free agency signing and grade tracker. Pretty helpful, pretty useful here. So I wasn't able to talk about all the signings in the videos. The smaller signings we just put on the tracker and we'll grade. So put a link. I'll put a link in the comments. You can check that out. But kind of some of the recent ones that we didn't talk about in the video. I think the Bills signing Michael Hoyt was a random one. Was he worth $8 million? I thought that was kind of random. Cardinals adding Davis. These are small signings. Patriots adding Matt Collins. Like, the good is he's like underrated. He's pretty solid, but they need better receivers, man. But overall, that was a good signing. Oren Burks could be solid for Cincinnati. I haven't loved what the Bengals have done, but some of these recent ones, Burks, Joseph Asai, getting him back on $7 million is pretty solid, but they're kind of just staying the same over there. Haven't loved the way they approach the interior defensive line. Some other signings obviously in here, which other ones that we need to touch on. Some recent ones. Diablo to the Falcons. They wanted better at linebacker. Is he worth $7 million a year? I know he has some upside. Was a former safety. Raiders have made some decent signings looking at value, but they're all a step down from the guys that they've lost. So Raiders having maybe a tough go, even though some of these, small signings are technically good value-wise. But, yeah, so we'll keep track on here. There's probably other ones that I didn't talk about in past videos that are on here, but you can click the link that I'll put for this in the comments. And you can, you'll be able to see them. So things could slightly change. I could change grades. They're not final just based on the structure of the contract. And sometimes some other things come out that it's a little cheaper than originally said. And over on the right here, we graded some guys that were pre-free agency signings as well. So I think pretty useful. You can keep track of that along the way. I got to fill in some grades that we just talked about in this video. But that will wrap it up for the third grade signing grades video. There's going to be more, and we have to talk about and grade all of the trades that are going down. Some went down last week, a couple very recently, Laramie Tunsil being the big one. Overall, if you want to hear my thoughts real quick, I mean, the Commanders get a lot better with an actual proven left tackle. He might not have a lot of good football left in him. He kind of took a step down last year, but his salary gets a lot of penalties. But they do get a lot better. The Texans, everyone will say they don't have a left tackle anymore, but let them figure that out. I think they get a haul for Laramie Tunsil. So overall, this could be pretty good for both sides. Same with the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade, Texans and Eagles. I think it could be solid for both sides, but the Eagles do need a safety now. But we'll talk more about that in its own video. It's going to do it. Like, subscribe to notifications on me. Much appreciated. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.